Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday, right? It's Wednesday. Yeah. Middle of the week. Yay. Remember those days when the weekend started on Thursdays at happy hour, usually, Thursday? It's been a way long time for me, so I'm not sure I can remember that far back. Kenna, should we give it like 2 more minutes for folks to jump in and then get started?
I think we've got all of our panelists here, so I'd say let's go ahead and get started and people can just join as they do. So,
Okay, sounds good. I'm just going to say welcome. Happy to have all of you. Thank you to all of our panelists that have worked with Hannah to put this together today. We're very excited that this is sort of the launching pad for doing this, we hope, in subsequent years for both employers and folks looking to apply. And we're very appreciative for Megan to jump on board and facilitate this. So we've been doing community conversations now, I believe, for 2 full years, and it's really a great platform for bringing these types of conversations to folks within CFHA. So we're excited about it. We hope to see many of you in San Antonio in the next 3 weeks for the annual conference, but I will turn it over, excuse me, I will turn it over to Hannah and Megan, and thank you so much for coming.
and Megan, you can take it away. I'll just keep an eye on the chat and
Okay.
let you know if you're missing anything.
Sounds great. Thank you, Hannah. And thank you, Tanya. I really appreciate CFHA setting all of this up and all of the work from both of you and getting this organized. I think it's a great idea to have a way for students to hear about training opportunities and to have training programs be able to talk about their work. So thank you for that. My name is Megan Fondo. I'm a behavioral health consultant here in Madison, Wisconsin at Access Community Health, and I'm happy to help facilitate the conversation today. We're going to start off by having the different programs talk about themselves, their program, maybe try to keep it to like 3 minutes or so per program so everybody can go through. And then we'll start going through some questions after that, either the ones that we've prepared or questions that come up via the chat. So I'm going to tag, let's see, I have several different people on the list here. Stacy, do you mind taking the first stab at this to introduce yourself and your program?
Sure. So, my name is Stacy Ogbeide. I am an associate professor in family medicine at UT Health in San Antonio, Texas. So, you all will be in our neck of the woods in a few months, or a few weeks, not months, a few weeks. And it's not as hot. It's not triple digits anymore. So, just letting you all know, it's a little bit cooler. We are starting a postdoctoral fellowship in the Department of Family Community Medicine. As the years go on, just so people know, we'll be supplementing the experience with subspecialty care, specifically pediatric hematology and oncology down the road, but it'll predominantly be in family medicine. So happy to be here. I'll put my email in the chat box in case people have questions offline.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate that and the introduction. We've also got Teresa here. You want to take the next one?
Good morning. My name is Teresa Davigo. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a behavioral health provider and training director at Providence Medical Group. We're offering continued postdoctoral residency in clinical health psychology with placements in primary care behavioral health integration. What that means is that residents are embedded in primary care. They're a part of that interdisciplinary primary care and specialty care team throughout the year. We're an accredited program. We're located in Oregon. We're part of Providence Health and Services, and I just want to take a moment here. Providence Health and Services is a non-profit Catholic network of services, and that includes hospitals and primary care clinics and home health care and other affiliated services. And we're guided by a mission of caring that the Sisters of Providence began in the West in, gosh, it was about 160 years ago or so. But I want to be clear that residents and care providers and other staff are not required to practice Catholicism. We're not bound by behavioral expectations beyond professional standards, right, and ethical guidelines. And there are no faith-based performance policies residents are subject to. But the Sisters of Providence are our founders and drive our aim to serve all people especially those who are poor and vulnerable. So it's important that you know that. The residency program itself is part of a larger training continuum. We have interns, also in the APA accredited internship program, practicum students coming in. We started the residency program in 2015, and so this is our 10th year right now that we're working, and we're proud to provide an inclusive home for all trainees, regardless of age, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, ethnicity, etc. And our aim really is to prepare psychologists to function effectively in integrated care settings as behavioral health providers, and also as leaders in primary care and in specialty care. So I could go on about our program specifically, but can also wait for questions as they come up.
Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate that. Helpful to hear. We're going to go on to the next person, Stephanie, I have on the list next.
Yes, hello. It's really good to see all your faces and get to meet all of you virtually. So I'm Stephanie Burkhard. I am here representing HealthSource of Ohio. So we are a primary care federally qualified health center. And we have a variety of different programs that we offer, but we're housed in Southwestern Ohio, so the kind of greater Cincinnati area. We have over 20 offices that include the family practice, primary care, pediatric services, OB-GYN services, dental, vision, pharmacy. So we kind of have smaller clinics to larger clinics all throughout the region. We host a variety of training programs. So not only do we have our postdoctoral fellowship in clinical psychology, but we also have medical residents who cycle with us and train with us. And so it's fun to get to partner alongside our medical colleagues in that way. We also have a robust practicum program that we get to actually have direct influence in with our postdoc fellows. And so there's a lot of different opportunities there. Postdocs who come here, right now we have 2 positions available. And one of the reasons why I wanted to specifically come and be able to represent us is I'm actually a graduating alumni from our postdoctoral fellowship. And so throughout my time here at HealthSource, I've been intimately aware of all of the ins and outs of our postdoc and helped kind of solidify the structure. So including the didactics and training opportunities. And we're also excited to be able to offer different training opportunities if you have specific population outside of just rural and those who are in need. We have specifically, like I mentioned, the OB-GYN care, so opportunities to engage in women's health. And then we have our PEDS specialist and one of our staff members who specifically does that training. So that's just generally a little bit about who we are. And like the others have mentioned, I'll be able to answer more questions related to our specific program and applications and all of that process. But it's exciting to get to be here today.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I have next on my list, I have Abby.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Caserta, and I'm here today representing Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. So we're not too far from Stephanie. Our program has been around since about 2017. I have not. I've been involved in the last 3 years as our track director. We're housed in pediatric psychology and continue to recruit 2 fellows each year to work in one of our 14 primary care clinics in our network. We do serve a very diverse patient population that will vary some according to clinic. There's a lot of refugee families. We serve a high percentage of the Latinx, Nepali, and Somali families. We are housed in pediatric psychology, so there are some opportunities for subspecialty rotations, like others have mentioned, for those who have interest in seeking like additional training in pain, for instance, or our feeding program. But the bulk of time is spent in our primary care network. We do have fellows rotate through both a home clinic as well as a kind of a rotating clinic, just to get a flavor for each clinic's kind of unique culture and to have experience kind of building relationship within that. So we're excited to be here and hope to see some of you guys applying or reaching out to ask additional questions.
Thank you, Abby. That's great. As a former OSU grad, woohoo, go Bucks. Good.
Go Bucks.
Yeah. All right, Paul, I have you up next.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to represent the VA Center for Integrated Healthcare. So I'm Paul King. I'm a clinical research psychologist at the VA Center for Integrated Healthcare, and I'm the director of our postdoctoral training program. Physically, I'm located in warm and sunny Buffalo, New York. I'll just sort of start out by saying a quick word on our center, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the program. So our center, the Center for Integrated Healthcare, is a VA Office of Mental Health Center of Excellence, and we're focused on improving the quality of veterans' healthcare by enhancing integration of mental health services into medical settings like primary care. The faculty at our center engage really in a wide range of professional activities. They include research, education, clinical work, and also implementation and implementation science to enhance the way that integrated care operates in VA settings across the country. Our overall goals are pretty wide, but they touch on basically advancing the state of the implementation of integrated services, developing and also disseminating brief behavioral interventions that are feasible within primary care, identifying and disseminating best practices and integration, and importantly, and the main reason why I'm here today, training predoctoral and postdoctoral fellows. And I'm very excited to be talking about that. In part because I'm our program's first graduate. I won't tell you the year because that will date me, but we do have 2 training sites at the Center for Integrated Healthcare. Both are in clinical psychology. Both are supported with funding from VA's Office of Academic Affiliations. Our fellowship mission is to train psychologists basically to become outstanding clinicians and researchers in the area of veterans' mental health and specifically integration. We have an APA accredited training site in Buffalo, New York. That's where I'm physically located. And we also have a non-accredited training site in Syracuse, New York. They're both 2-year positions and follow a scientist practitioner training model. At least 25% is protected clinical time, clinical training rotations and supervision. And our fellows in those settings focus on delivering evidence-informed practice in one of our integrated care clinics. The remainder of fellows' time in our program is spent with a combination of didactics and research training, collaborative work with their mentors on topics ranging from, again, brief mental health interventions to assessment practices that are viable in integrated care, implementation science, or a combination. Our current faculty research interests include population health approaches to identifying and managing depression, chronic pain, substance use disorders, PTSD, post-deployment healthcare, as well as peer support and transdiagnostic behavioral interventions. A lot of the work that we do in terms of developing training plans revolves around helping our fellows to have their individual research portfolios grow over time, enhancing their skills necessary to conduct research in an independent fashion. And they collaborate with our senior staff in developing research proposals, preparing manuscripts, conducting IRB-approved research, and also preparing and submitting grant applications. So we touch on a little bit of everything, and that's one of the reasons why it's so exciting to me.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. And last but not least, Dave and Bridget. I don't know if Bridget's on, but Dave is here, I see.
Bridget is not. I didn't allow her to join now. Hello, everybody. I'm David Bauman. I'm representing Community Health of Central Washington. So we have a APA doctoral internship and then a postgraduate fellowship. And I really appreciate the response question from Wendy. It just even saying our fellowship program well geared towards definitely our doctorate fellows. We have kind of a intentionality trying to progress our interns to fellows. It is open to postgraduate fellows, so that could be master's level as well. I'm going to put some information into the chat just about our program. program. We have great websites that has a lot of videos and informations about it. The only thing I would just highlight is our three kind of focus areas of our fellowship is to obviously train people in primary care behavioral health, and very much embracing primary care as the mainstay. That is what we're trying to do. It's not a behavioral health intervention, it's a primary care intervention, and people get steeped in that knowledge. And then the last two is we are a family medicine residency program as well, so you get exposure and opportunities to work as a behavioral scientist as a fellow within our family medicine residency, so shadowing residents, doing one-on-one coaching with residents, and just implementing our psychosocial medicine curriculum throughout a residency clinic. And then lastly, the thing I get most excited about, we also have part of the curriculum be for leadership and director development. And even though Bridget isn't here today, much like I think people being able to go with Stacy and be able to learn from people like Stacy, you get to learn from people like Bridget that are directors and forces in the community and doing incredible leadership related things. So we have a whole curriculum regarding those three areas of full PCBH, behavioral scientists, as well as leadership. But I'll put things into the chat, and definitely check out our website.
Great. Thank you, everybody. This is so great to hear about all the wonderful training opportunities. It makes me feel really excited for the future of our field and a little bit sad that I'm not going back to school myself, but that's fine. Let's see if anybody has any questions. Feel free to throw them into the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself as well. I'm going to get started with one question for panelists, and you guys can feel free to chime in with what your thoughts are. I'm curious about the top 3 things you're looking for when you're reviewing applications, right? As you're looking at an application, you know, what is it that kind of jumps out that you're like, ooh, this is going to be one that I want to interview. I want to talk to them. Something about it is grabbing you in some way.
About one thing just to get the conversation started. One thing that we look for is just documented ways that you've fully immersed yourself in cultural humility. Our patient population is incredibly ethnically, linguistically, socioeconomically diverse. And so I appreciate it when people have made an intentional effort to expose themselves, to immerse themselves in different cultures, just because if you don't look like the population you serve, what else are you doing to build that skill set? So that's something that we look for.
Thank you, Stacy. That's great. I appreciate that. Other panelists?
Yeah, similar, and as a response to Stacy, I really appreciate the way that she brought that up. I think that's really important to us as well. So something working in a federally qualified health center, we serve a rural population that has many vast needs. And we want to see that you've taken some intentionality or any kind of applicant as to why we would be a good fit for them. In specifically treating our patient population. So I have others that I came to the top of my mind as well. I think it's kind of taking that step away from the generic, just, hey, I'm looking for a training opportunity, just because we have so many wonderful training opportunities out there, even just the few that are here, you know, represented. But really that dive both, either if it's location and why that's important to you, so like writing about that, or your past experience and what's really motivating you, maybe those early career goals, because we also really love to invest into keep on our trainees who come here at any level of training. So anything like that in your application materials or through conversations of why us specifically would be a good fit would really help you stand out for some of our program.
Thank you, Stephanie. Teresa, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Also at Providence Medical Group, I think we echo absolutely cultural responsivity is, and evidence of cultural responsivity and attention to that in your journey thus far. And also career trajectory. We're interested in working with people who are making efforts to develop themselves as behavioral health providers or in integrated care in some way. It doesn't have to be a generalist behavioral health provider. We do have rotations in heart transplant clinic and oncology and adolescent eating disorder and specialty pediatric medicine and like that. So that's just some evidence of career trajectory in this area. And I think the third thing would be character. Just a well-rounded individual, and somebody who we would enjoy working with, who would enjoy joining us here in Oregon at Providence Medical Group, because our residents also supervise some of our pre-doc folks, and so we want to establish relationship and all the way through that training continuum. And so character matters.
Thank you for that, Teresa.
I agree with so much of what's been said. I would just really underscore the fit piece. Why do you stand to benefit from very in-depth advanced training in these areas? How does our program fit with your training needs? How do you stand to benefit from time focusing on developing relationships in integrated care, boots on the ground work in our clinics, developing a skill set to do research in this area? For our program in particular, 2 years is a significant investment for most folks and exceeds what most states would consider minimum requirements for licensure. So how are you going to take advantage of that time to really get to the next stage of your career?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Stacy, for joining. I know she had to step out, so thanks for that. Dave, I saw you posted a comment in the chat. Did you want to expand on that at all?
You know, I guess briefly, yeah, I think echoing what everybody else had said, I think the main one is trying to convey, and it's tough to convey these things in applications and cover letters, and so there's a lot of just grace, love, and compassion because it's a tough time often when you're applying. But you know, for us, like if you don't have a value of working with the underserved, like just don't apply. Like again, and that's not a bad thing. That's just a informed consent. That just is a value congruent thing. Just it isn't, that is the main thing that's going to allow you to be successful with us and it's going to match our values is just working in a community health center, working with the underserved. And then, any way that you can convey a sense of wanting to challenge traditional ways of approaching mental health. I hope sooner or later we're all going to get on board with this, that the way we have done things just has not worked, it will not work, and it will never work. So how are we going to rethink this and be challenging our assumptions regularly and often about how to reach vulnerable populations, and again from our sense of undisturbed. And then with us, we're ACT people, we're fact people, so contextual approaches, not focusing so much on diagnosing and symptoms but focus on humans and functioning is a great thing. That's a selling point for us.
Thank you for that. I think we've heard from many panelists. I don't know if, Abby, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think to echo some of what's been said so far, we often get asked, well, I don't have specific primary care experience, but I have some specialty experience in these areas. And I think the demonstration of how can I apply my skill set in this type of setting and kind of improve my fluency in these other areas and just kind of that willingness to learn, I think is something that we view as important. And a lot of that usually comes through in a cover letter for us. And then, of course, highlighting those areas of expertise and the CV and making sure that's front and center for us so things don't get overlooked.
Thank you. That's great. I appreciate all the thoughtful responses from everybody. It's really helpful to hear, I think, for applicants as they're putting application materials together. A couple of nuts and bolts, nitty-gritty questions. How do you handle applications? I mean, are you using the APIC system? Are you having it go through a separate system? Like, tell if you could each take a turn of just talking about the nitty-gritty of how the applications are handled and deadlines and decision dates and all that kind of stuff.
I could go first because I probably won't. Yeah. So for us, we have more of a kind of a traditional kind of job application where sending a cover letter and then 3 letters of recommendation to me directly is our application. I think our due date is I think it's January 1st. I'll have to look at the website. The website has the information, and then we do try to follow Apex. I have such I don't know, grace and compassion for people that are applying for fellowship, because one, you just got to your internship, and then you're like, God damn it, I gotta now apply for fellowship. And then you have this whole system that some people are following the universal match day, some people are not following the universal match day. You apply to some sites that you really like, and they put pressure on you to be like, hey, if you don't take this offer, we're gonna pull it, we're gonna give it to someone else. So there's just a lot of grace, love, and compassion I have for people going through this. So we try to stick to as much as possible that universal match date, and we do have just with the flexibility for us, if we like you, you like us, we'll have that conversation, and we try to just not put too much pressure on the applicants with offers as far as like demanding, if you don't accept it now, we're going to give it to someone else. We do offer early admissions for our interns. So the past actually 2 years, we haven't even had kind of external applicants be considered just because our interns took the fellowship positions and stayed on. But our traditional route is by January 1st, submitting letters of recommendation, cover letter, CV to myself. And then we do try to, as much as possible, go towards that universal notification day.
Thank you. That's helpful. Stephanie?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just because ours is similar, I'll go ahead and just jump on after what David shared. This is so tricky. I mean, I think having navigated it personally and then also having this conversation, because there's programs that are doing different things. So specifically for HealthSource, we also take a similar approach where we're not going through the formal match system. It's more of an emailing us your interest. And I'm also percolating a little bit on our past question. I think something for us at HealthSource, and I think our field in general, is we want to invest in you as a person. And so that's reflected into every level of both our training program, but also our application program. And I know other programs may have different ways that they do this, but we really love and actually encourage even questions first, like, I saw your logo and I had a thought, kind of thing. With us. So that would be emailing either me or my colleague, Dr. Mike Brunner, to just say what your interest is. And then we get the ball rolling. So we actually take, and we have a lot of flexibility because our program is growing actively. So we try to follow similar timelines. We have our application date. Yeah, I think it's January 1st. So we have it posted as, but on our website, it says a rolling application. So this could be if for whatever reason you were going through and you had an idea that you're going to do the match and then something went awry, life circumstances or training opportunities changed, we would want to hear from you still. We can't always necessarily say, yes, you have a position open all the time, because we do follow those traditional kind of cycles, but we have an open anytime anyone can message us, which then also makes it hard to say that we 100% hold the common hold date. So we do try to follow it, but we be really transparent with our applicants, and we ask them to do the same. If it's something that you're going to take another opportunity, great. There's no ill will. We actually just want you to find the best place for you. And so that's what's important to us, as well as us being transparent with you. If we really like you, it feels like, hey, this is feeling like it's a really good fit. If we place an offer out there, we really want to hold it until you tell us it's not going to be a good fit for you. And so, transparency, be a human, which I know is so hard to do because all of this is like, we want to be professional and there's balance in that. But that's really important for us here on our team too, that you get what you need through us. So echo all the things that Dave was saying, but yeah, traditional, we handle it. We email you back, we call, have those formal conversations. We bring you out for an interview. If we're past the first interview, then we want you to see boots on the ground here, if it feels like a good fit. And then it'll be more formal conversation, probably around that common hold date, maybe a little bit before of an offer.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Teresa, did you see you're unmuted? Yeah, great.
Yeah, thank you. At Providence Medical Group up here in Oregon, we do abide by the APIC selection guidelines, but we don't participate in the match. We do abide by the common hold date, and so we welcome applications as early as, well, we're welcoming them now. And we privilege applications that arrive in our email in the second week of by the second week of December, end of second week. But our application pool remains open throughout until even after the common hold date. until all positions are filled or until we're satisfied. We don't just fill positions to fill them. In fact, this year we only have 3 residents, but we have 5 positions total. And so applicants or people who are interested in applying or just getting to know us can send either myself an email with their, an applicant should send me an email with a cover letter, their CV, and then they should ask 2 references to send me letters of recommendation under separate cover from from the people recommending you. I also have a colleague who's accepting applications for the same positions. Her name is Jamie Dressler, and I'll put her email in our chat here in just a moment. We do abide by the APIC guidelines. Of course, our information is in the UPPD. That's the Universal Psychology. I have to read this. Universal Psychology Postdoctoral Directory. Just cover letter, CV, 2 letters of reference that can come to us by email, either to myself or my colleague Jamie Dressler. And then we have interviews usually second week in January, and our top choices will be notified. Our target is January 17. No later than January 17 is our target, and then and that's not the done deal. Then we sort of think things through together. Love the transparency, and we do stay in close contact with our top picks. And once we make a connection, then we proceed accordingly. But I think I hit all the boxes there. Did I leave anything out?
Not that I can think of. This is really helpful to hear from sites as to how they're handling this in the nitty gritty. Paul or Abby, either one of you. Oh, Paul, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Thanks I really appreciate the question. I think it's really important for applicants to know the variety of mechanisms, right, that through which they're going to reach the programs and share their information. So we actually moved toward APICAS applications just within the past couple of years, in part because we know that applicants are typically applying to several sites, and it sort of makes it a little easier on them to handle transcripts and reference letters. So we are using the APICAS system. That portal is open now, and it will stay open up until December 1st. That's when we ask folks to have their applications in. Typically, we're interviewing in January. It's a bit skewed toward, I guess, what I would call an academic model for interviews. There's a series of, for qualified applicants who advance to the interview stage. There's virtual interviews with our faculty and their potential research and clinical mentors. And then they have an opportunity to give a brief job talk that would sort of outline their professional interests and research areas. And typically, we're conducting all of those interviews at least as much as possible in the month of January. We start making selection notifications toward the end of January, and we do honor the common hold. We know that life circumstances take folks in different directions, and I think all of us have been through sort of that internship to fellowship or internship to post-grad work, and we know that there's a lot of different options on the table and stakeholders. So we're very happy to offer that flexibility. I think this year it's February 24th, if memory serves correct, that common hold. So if we issue an offer to our top candidates, they can hold that offer until they make a determination or get an offer from a site that they would rank higher. And we perfectly understand that these are tough decisions, tough life decisions that people have to make.
Agreed. It is a big decision. I appreciate that. Abby, any thoughts?
Yeah. Like Paul's team, we are also using APICAS with a December 1st deadline. And since it's free and we've found it to be pretty uniform and streamlined, we're going to continue with that. Probably like other programs, we're interviewing likely in that second week of January, and able to turn around first offers pretty quickly. We do like to act quickly, but also respect that a lot of people are still in the middle of interviews and so may not be able to accept, and that's okay. So I can put a link in our chat for the website that has all of the details, not only for our track, but the other tracks that we'll be recruiting for next year within pediatric psychology. And we welcome questions and conversations outside of the application process or even ahead of it. So I think any opportunity to talk about the work we're doing, I think most of us are pretty enthusiastic about that. So please don't hesitate to reach out about fit or, with additional questions.
Thank you. That's great. Appreciate all the information. It sounds like we have a nice mix of systems that people use, which is pretty typical. And I think it's great to have the time to have explanations for people to understand a little bit more about what works for each site. A couple of you mentioned interviews, and I know the question, I didn't include that specifically. So I'm wondering what other thoughts people have about interviews that, in the past, it was leaned heavily towards in person. I think since the pandemic, there's a lot more virtual interviews. So whatever comments you have about interviews, but the format in person versus virtual will be great to comment on as well. Yeah, Paul, I see your hand.
I will just say we did move to 100% virtual interviews several years ago, actually. In part, there was a lot of feedback from applicants and even the fellows that we took into the program early on, how expensive it was to travel. So just from an equity perspective, to try to make it a little easier on everyone, we do exclusively virtual interviews, but absolutely would invite anybody who wanted to come out to see the site or the location. We're very happy to give them a tour and introduce them to folks.
Thank you. That's helpful. Teresa, I think you were also unmuting. Did you?
We provide all online interviews. We do an open house where people can meet our leadership, meet the supervisors, and kind of get to know our program a little bit, and we get to know applicants, and then we have all online interviews.
Great, thank you. I see a couple of comments in the chat as well. It looks like Dave, you said virtual and then in person.
Yeah, so we do kind of an initial virtual interview, similar to what Stephanie was referring to, and we kind of Bridget made a kind of a podcast about this. We kind of convince people that they don't want to work here. We talk about all the different things that are going to be required and expectations, and so we have kind of informed consent right from the front. And then if that person progresses beyond that, we do a formal interview where we fly people out, we put people up in hotels, we have a dinner, we have them meet with, as people were saying, a variety of different stakeholders, medical providers, senior leaders, BHCs, and so forth. And so that's our process that we usually do. And we usually invite probably 3 to 5 people on site, because that initial kind of interview whittles down, both people being like, no, I don't want to do that. And then also us being like, hey, we're really excited about that applicant. We want to bring them out.
Stephanie, I see you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, very similar. It's fun to be able to piggyback off of what Dave was saying. So similar for us, we want to make it most accessible. So we have our first kind of conversations all virtually. And if there is an applicant that we really are engaged with and feeling like a top choice and feel like it could be a good fit, we pay for them to come out and kind of get to meet us, meet the team, as well as our higher ups, lead medical directors and such. And create a full interview day for them out here in Ohio. So what I will say though, is that we want it to be flexible, and we have made offers without having applicants be able to come out, because we know family needs and weather and all of, we're also they're during internship. And so we like to take that, I'm going to borrow Dave's words, grace, love, and compassion, whatever we need. And we really value if someone wants to come out and meet us and get to see it and see if it's a good fit geographically as well. We try to make that possible for them.
Abby, any thoughts on the interview part of the process?
I'll add, we are completely virtual. However, we recognize that all of our candidates are humans with families, partners, children. And so when we're getting serious about an applicant, making sure that if they're wanting to see the area, familiarize themselves with our main campus, as well as parts of Columbus, to ensure it's a good fit, we're happy to accommodate that. But that's not necessarily the norm, but we certainly do that year to year.
Great. Thank you guys. It's helpful to hear all of those parts. I think the first step for everybody is getting that application done, and then you quickly move into the worry about the next part. I see a question here in the chat. Oh, great. Side question. Love the fact that you're thinking about developing a training program. I think that's great. And it looks like we've already got a response. So yeah, it's always great to reach out to those who are already doing training. I think that's part of the hope from doing events like this, is that there's also a community at large within CFHA also for support for training directors and people involved with training. There's definitely a lot of collective knowledge here, I think, in this group about things that they've learned over the years. So I think you're well advised to reach out to people for support on that front as well. I have a few other prepared questions, but I wanted to check to see if anybody had any other thoughts, questions. Anybody else have any other thoughts for tips for developing a program for the question that came up? Nothing in particular. That's great. I will say from my experience of doing training for a number of years as well, it's helpful to reach out to other people, learn your community, learn where you can find sources of students locally, as well as attracting people across the country through posting on CFHA or other places like the UPPD if it's a postdoc program as well. Okay, here's another question. What common mistakes, what is a mistake that you guys see a lot in applications that you want to see people avoid in their application? Are there patterns that you have seen over the years? Paul, I see your hand right away.
Yes, I will say probably one of the top things that I would encourage applicants to avoid is the very generic cover letter, the ultra brief cover letter. I'm interested in the program. Please see the attached materials. Look forward to hearing from you. I think the cover letter is a real opportunity for folks to tell us who you are, to help tie together data points that might appear in your CV, or string together elements of their history, elements of their prior training experience and their goals. Tell us more. So I would very strongly encourage avoiding the ultra brief or generic cover letter.
Yep, I see another lots of heads nodding, lots of agreement on that. Abby, did you have other thoughts?
Relatedly, it's always very helpful to understand that, okay, this applicant has done their homework and they've highlighted something about our institution or our training program specifically that's appealing to them or relevant to their past experiences. So that goes along with avoiding being too generic, but love to see when folks have done the homework and made it easier for us to see the fit in their application.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that, and it makes a lot of sense. Other thoughts on mistake? Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think, and this is a tough one because, again, grade 7 capacity is just a tough time. And I think it goes along with what people said. Just you don't need to oversell yourself. Like, just talk about the experiences that you've had. I think one of the things that can be a little bit difficult is, you get a cover letter, you get, that says all these different experiences, and you look at the CV and it's like, oh man, this doesn't seem like this is matching, or the CV is, trying to make experiences not what they were, and then we get this initial virtual interview and it's like, clearly this doesn't match. So there's always going to be this sense of having to sell yourself, which makes sense. It just say what you've done, and I think, I think Abby was saying it before during the initial question, if you haven't had experience, just talk about how your experience you believe is going to match the current one, right? You don't have to make something up. You don't have to make it seem like it's something bigger than that. Just as much as possible, talk about who you are, what your experience is, and not having to oversell it.
Well stated. Yeah, Stephanie, go ahead.
Yeah, piggybacking. Two ideas kind of came up to mind for me. So first, this is the postdoc year is your last year of training, and we expect you to have training goals, and those are real. And I think sometimes that can be pretty vulnerable to share, but what I usually like to encourage applicants is we want to invest in you. Like, we are passionate about this work and we want to help you feel robust and ready to be an early career psychologist. And so as a part of that, it is a delicate kind of weaving together. And that was what my second point was a mentor shared with me once, and I'll never forget this. But when it comes to cover letters, you kind of build it in paragraph form, but it's this idea of, we all know, but explain, like, I'm great, you're great, let's be great together. Right? So it's that idea where it's, yes, we want to hear and make sense. You've had an incredible training experience as applicants, and we want to hear about that, highlighting it in the CV as well as in the cover letter. And then we want to hear your homework of like what you know are the kind of programs that we offer. And then in that final, like how we could work together is that match of, if you have training goals, and specifically with us at HealthSource, we're a growing program. We're kind of new and getting our feet under us. And we have so many ideas, excitement about research opportunities. And like I had mentioned, some specialty care opportunities. And we want applicants to dream big. And this will be more of like our top fits, and that can kind of come through those interview and like prepping to say, if you have something that you've heard about as another one of your cohort mates, let's say, got a training opportunity and you want to ask, we encourage you to ask. And that would actually help us identify, is this a good fit for you? Or are we going to encourage you to find another site that would be a better fit for you? And so kind of full circle there of we want you to be a human. We expect you to have training goals, and you're still that last year trainee. So highlighting that fit.
Thank you. That's well said, Stephanie. Appreciate it. Any other thoughts on that one?
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Teresa. Sorry, I didn't see you go off on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everything has already been said. The key components of historical issues. I think the only one that is sort of tricky is to complete the application, ensure that those references are in and that we receive them. So encouraging your referral sources to get that information to us. But I think the underlying current of that also, just want to share, never worry alone. If you're worried about something, if you wonder whether we have a completed application, or if you're curious, you have questions or a cause for pause about our programs, or what to expect, or who we are, please reach out to us. I think we're all approachable. And I think when I hear people sort of wonder and they sort of exclude programs for whatever reason, without reaching out, you might be missing out on something. So, or you might, help yourself advance your understanding and awareness. Just let us know if we can be helpful.
That's great. That leads me to another question, but I wanted to see if anybody else had anything else on this one to add before I jump on.
I just have one small
Yep.
add, and I would encourage every candidate to talk with a trusted mentor or colleague about their applications. It doesn't necessarily mean a full start to finish review, but to get some feedback on key points at minimum, and to always have another set of eyes on those aspects of your application, like cover letter, that might be very informative to your training site. Sometimes those mentors who have been around the block can help share some things that you might consider commenting on in addition to what's already there.
Yes, that is a great piece of advice. I think that's always helpful to have shared knowledge, right? And to move through it together. I think the other question I was going to ask, it came up with some of the comments you guys had. Do you find it to be beneficial to have applicants reach out to you or to others that are in charge of your applications beforehand? Is that something you look for? Or is it just if people have questions kind of thing? Like, what's the feeling about that?
We welcome that. We're not looking for that necessarily. We don't, bias an applicant for reaching out, at least not explicitly. And we just want to be helpful and help guide people to best fit.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, I would echo that. I really love how, Teresa, you said that. It's like, explicitly, we're not looking for that, but just our relational frames are going to go up. We like people that like us, right? So if we have people that are reaching out earlier and stuff, I think the key is, though, don't reach out to have that be a strategy to get higher ranked on a list or something like that. Like, be a genuine reach out. Like, if there's questions or just voicing excitement at the program, I love hearing those things. Now, again, if it's a strategy to get a interview or something, I would be like, yeah, I want to do that so much. But if there is a genuine want to reach out and connect, absolutely do that.
Certainly encourage reaching out. Like others have said, not a requirement. I think it's also part of that informed consent process, right? Is this a program that offers training opportunities that align with what I'm looking for? I would much rather have folks reach out with those questions and make a determination, yes, I want to apply, or no, I don't, than to feel like they have to be in the dark.
Yeah, I think that's well said. If you have questions about applying, just ask the questions. I see both Stephanie and Abby both unmuted. I'll put Stephanie, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, yeah, I'll echo. Obviously, I think that we would love to hear from you, and genuine questions, please encourage. And also, yeah, just excitement. If you just said, hey, I saw your posting and looking forward to applying, even something like that, if you want to get a connection started. The other pieces is throughout the process, we also really encourage you to connect with our active trainees, our active postdocs or practicum students, or even other care staff or medical colleagues. We have some point people in our organization that we can get you connected with, but to circle to that transparency is we want you to be able to feel safe enough to ask questions that are going to truly identify if it's a good fit for you or not. And we are happy to get you in contact with who those people might be.
I was just going to comment that we welcome this prior to submitting your application, throughout the process or even after, and that while we can't, force a fit, we are fortunate enough here at Nationwide Children's Hospital to have a very vast behavioral health service line. And so our colleagues, we're always kind of scratching our heads with the workforce development question of how can we kind of meet the need. And so if it's not with us, certainly there may be others on the teams that we're working alongside that we may be able to connect you with. So looking at it as a networking opportunity, if nothing else.
That's well said. I appreciate that, because you're right. Sometimes we have other places that we can pass people along to. Oh, this might be a better fit here. That makes a lot of sense. Any last thoughts or questions from any of the panelists here on the application process, the interview process, the programs that you have? Anything else you wanted to highlight?
The only other thing that my mind goes to is, and I am really grateful for CFHA for doing this. It's such an exciting iteration and potential ripples. I say this during our internship interview season and our fellowship program. And anytime I'm talking with people that are about to go through this formal process, is that be kind throughout it, and I think we've all been through this and we forget about it. And it's one of the things that's really interesting that our minds do, right? When we're in these stressful situations, it just constantly tells us, like, I can't wait for this to be over. I just can't wait to find out who I'm going with the internship with or fellowship with. And the one downside of that is that you lose out on this like really cool moment that is happening, that you're applying for fellowship or you're applying for, something that might be the last formal training year. And that represents a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work. And so throughout this process, I love Stephanie's, or I forget who, I think it might have been Paul, whoever said about the mentoring and getting people to look over materials. Make sure you have people that you're doing this alongside with, whether that be other people that are applying or family or friends, just to keep lifting you up, keep you in the moment. Make sure you're recognizing it is a big, big moment, and be kind as much as possible throughout it. So don't lose sight of the moment that's happening.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's helpful. It looks like we have a question in the chat. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. About how to connect with current or past residents. How do you guys ask for people to do that? Is it available on your websites? Is it something where you just contact you and you'll pass them along? How does it work?
I think for us, if you contact me, or I also put my colleague in there, Dr. Mike Berner, and then we'll facilitate getting you the contact information, just because those people and availability may shift as we go throughout the season.
Yeah, it looks like that's similar to most everybody. So if you're interested in talking to a current or past resident, I think that is going to make sense to start with the training directors and the context and the charts. Thank you guys for the answers to that. That's a great question, because it is helpful to talk to the people who've experienced it and to hear what they have to say as well. All right, well, I am gonna wrap it up then, I think, if that sounds okay, unless anybody had any last questions or thoughts that they wanted to share. Thank you guys, all the panelists. Thank you all so much for joining today. It was really helpful and amazing to hear about the outstanding work that's being done in our integrated care community. It's really exciting. It's really very exciting all the way. And thank you to Hannah and Tanya and all the CFHA folks who helped to organize all of this. I just love the fact that we can have this be a central thing within CFHA to be able to talk about training so directly.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and for panelists. We echo Megan's words as well, and we hope to see you in San Antonio.
And thank you, Megan, for facilitating.
Sure, my pleasure. See y'all in San Antonio.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, thank you.